So obviously there's some regrets that Mr. Paxton is not with us, because that was, if you could talk a little bit about that relationship and how he may have influenced a little bit your thought process heading into the film.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. He's a lovely man. Years and years ago, when I first started acting, I did a film called Lords of Discipline, and Bill was in it, and we got on very well. And it was such an honor for me to be able to call him and say, Bill, I'm doing this film. And you know, he did the greatest game ever played. And I rang him, and he immediately answered. He immediately said, absolutely, let's get together and talk over lunch. And you know, he talked to me about the fact that you know, it's really important in these films for the audience to invest in the characters, and that you can't make the golf the predominant factor. And he was incredibly encouraging and lovely. And actually, sadly, I have a number of texts of him saying, I'm so excited you opened the Edinburgh Film Festival, you won a BAFTA for Best Film, which is sort of Scottish equivalent of an Oscar, and I so want to see your film. And he was in Ojai, and he was going to come and watch it, and unfortunately, as we all know now, he died. This is just so sad. But he was a real inspiration and a lovely man. Well, the thing for me about old Tom and young Tommy, you know, was a sort of they had such a connection as a father and son, and I felt such an affinity with reading about them playing together and being together. Was, you know, I played many golf games with my father, and over the years growing up, I've had fantastic times on the golf course with him. And you know, I sort of looked at that, and when we were writing the script, wanted to incorporate some of the times we've had on the golf course, which, you know, weren't always what one would imagine to be happy times, because I was saying what my aspirations were in the world and what I wanted to do, and he was telling me what he thought I should do, and also how he thought I should do it. And you know, sometimes they weren't always.
What did he think you should do?
Well, no, you know, I said I wanted to act, and he was happy that I wanted to act, but he wanted to, you know, say to me that, you know, it was a difficult profession, and that I would be facing, you know, the fact that he was very prolific as an actor. And you know, of course, at that time, at 18, I was like, yeah, but that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be, you know. And so he was always very encouraging, but he was also, and I see that now in myself as a father to my 19-year-old son, the last thing in the world you want is for your son to feel pain. So, you know, when I was working with Peter Mullan and Jack Lowden to play old Tom and Tommy, you know, that's where it comes from. It comes from fear, really, of not wanting your son to feel pain.
How old were you when he cut down that 7-iron for you?
I think I was about 8.
Do you remember, where were you playing?
In Spain. My dad had a house in Spain for a long time. He now lives in Bahamas, but he had a, and we played, and then, I say we played, I used to hit the ball, then I caddied for him, and then he used to do this tournament at Glen Eagles mostly for 10 years in a row with my family. I used to play a lot with my family, my stepmother Michelin and my brother Stefan, and then my dad would join us, and we just have such fantastic memories of that time.
Who would have thought from that time you're hitting that cut down 7-iron that you'd be making the movie about the most famous, you know, some of the founders of the game?
I know. It's funny how the world works, and you know, I have a little cottage in Scotland, and sitting there reading the book, Tommy's Honour, you know, all of these images came in my head, and that was 6 years ago almost now. And to be standing here, to be standing in New York, standing in Chicago, for the film to be out in America and about to come out in Canada and eventually all over the world, it's a wonderful thing. And I also feel a certain sense of weight in the fact that you know, I am the person who is hopefully handing on the legacy of these. I don't think they had any sense of their own legacy. They just had a passion for the game. And I hope people enjoy, that it's somewhat of a gateway to people who have little knowledge of where the game came from. It's just lovely to see it with an audience because it means it's so different from watching it alone in a dark room. Usually with my editor, who's a grumpy Australian. So no, and it's nice to hear the little ins and outs of breath when certain things happen, and also a few laughs. Sorry to the women and their bosoms. But
well, it's been a bit of a journey to get here tonight.
Yeah.
The phone call from your producer, Jim Kreutzner, came about 5 years ago.
He did.
So how do you stay interested in a project, enthusiastic about a project for that amount of time?
Well, I mean, you know, making a film, as some of you, and I know that there are filmmakers here, know, you know, is a fairly thankful task to a certain extent, and it's also, I think, the only way to really make a film is to sort of partition it. So I got a phone call from Jim Kreutzer, who sent me the book. I didn't know about young Tommy. I didn't know that story at all. I mean, ironically, I was sitting in my cottage, which is 2.5 hours drive from St Andrews in Scotland, and yet I didn't know the story. And when I read it all in one go, and I was just blown away by the story that you've just seen. And there's a long way before you get to this stage. And so the first part of that was trying to write the script with the writer of the book and also his wife. The good thing about that is that his wife, the writer of the book, didn't like golf. He didn't have any interest in golf. He was only interested really in the drama of the story. So you had one man who was like, this is the historical accuracy, and then you had a woman who said, I don't give a shit about that, let's write the drama. And I was in the middle, kind of holding them off each other. And we had one adage above where we were writing, which was that every new idea starts as a blasphemy. And it was very apropos for young Tommy, because of the status quo of the time was very much to do with the class system. You know, you do what you are told, and this is how society is. And Tommy very much was, you know, a fighter against that, very much to the chagrin of his father, who was, I think, probably pretty scared about some of the ideas that Tommy had. And so after the script, you then have to raise the money, you then have to put the cast together, and then you have to go to the location, find the locations, and then you have to shoot the movie, and then you have to go to post, and then finally you end up here. And you know, it's a joy to be here, and it is a journey of all of that. But if you embrace the journey, it's pretty damn exciting for sure.
And I should mention, it's the second intermission in the hockey game, 3-all, just so you know.
And again, I thank you so much for being here.
I don't think you fully understand the commitment that's happening in this room right now.
I know. I thought there'd be like 2 people and a dog here. I'm talking of the game tonight. Every athlete owes the tip of their cap to young Tommy, because Tommy said, I don't want to get a stipend. I don't want to get £5 for this. 9,000 people come to see me play, and they come to see me. So, you know, you need to pay me a piece of the action. And all professional athletes today get a piece of the action because of him. So in that sense, he changed the rules, and he was the first professional athlete. He was the first person to say, I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to make golf balls. I don't want to teach people. I don't want to design golf courses. I want to be a golfer. I want to be professional and also touring. He toured around the country, and he did exhibitions. He played against archers. I mean, the Victorians would bet on anything. Yeah. So basically, if there was an archer to be play against a golfer, fantastic, let's bet on it. You know, that's how it went. And these guys bet their entire week's wages, probably unknown to their wife. And you know, and so they had a really invested interest in who won. And so a lot of the stuff that you see there, where they are really verbal and also physical, was because they really cared and they championed. I mean, it was almost pugilistic. They championed their guy. And in fact, the scene that you see, the fight in the bunker, we actually shot that, and that bunker is actually where they had the fight. That's a true event. Oh, wow. And in fact, right next to that bunker is Mrs. Foreman's pub, which is still there, where they went and had a dram while everyone was beating the shit out of each other. And unfortunately, we couldn't shoot in there because it's all been modernized. There's sort of fruit machines and things in there, so we couldn't do it. But that was indeed the bunker. which was quite something to stand there and know that that was the case.
Movie, David Cronenberg, the great Canadian film director, always says that casting is 90% of any film.
Right.
You have two great actors in the leads here. You're making a film about two legendary golf players, and you cast Peter Mullins and Jack Lowden, neither of whom knew anything about golf when they took this on. Did that give you pause at all?
No, I tell you, first of all, great actors, they find the intention behind whoever they're playing. And so I remember this so well. Jack had never picked up a golf club, and he was so embarrassed, because he didn't know how to play. So we were very lucky to have Jim Farmer, who was the honorary pro at the R&A, and he had all this. Luckily, in St Andrews at the time of the Morrises, there was a lot of photographic evidence. There was many photographers there, and so there's pictures. Now, obviously, it wasn't film, but we had young Tommy swing from here, and then he was here, and there was an extraordinary picture of him, and he's right like John Daly, where he's right like that, and the head of his club is over there. And he sort of unwound, and he had this strange thing with his knee where he picked his knee up really early on. So even when he was here, his knee was like this, and he came all the way around. And it was a very narrow swing, and that's his swing. Tom, we had a picture, and he was very tick-tock, was straight back and straight through, not long. Tommy was long. But what's extraordinary was both of them were really hard, hitting balls, using that swing. Totally different grip. I couldn't use the clubs, and I play golf. Right. And one day I said, okay, you practice, but I said, let's do the intention behind what you're going to do with the ball. Forget about the swing. And I remember looking at Jack, and I said, I want you to walk up to that ball. I want you to know exactly where you're going to hit it. I want you to know exactly what you're going to do with it, what that club will do when it hits it. And he walked up to the ball, he looked off like this, he walked up to the ball, and he stood over it. And it didn't matter whether he could hit it. Right. It was the fact that he stood there with that intention, and both of those got there. And that's what acting is at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. The great actors have the ability to immerse themselves in and we all believe that they can do. I can help. Right. I can make them look as though the ball goes a mile. So that's not the problem. But to tell you the truth, Jack desperately wanted to putt the ball. That chip shot that he hits on the snow, the last second take, boom, straight in the hole. And the funniest thing is he wanted to go, yes, but he couldn't, so he had to walk away like this. And it was sad like this. Everyone else was going. Of course, as soon as he got out of shot, he's like,
So we had a chance to speak earlier, but the idea that the lead actors didn't know how to play golf reminded me of the greatest game ever played in Shia LaBeouf, who went through the same thing, and I believe he actually lied during castings to say that he could play. And I was wondering, it reminded me of Bill Paxton, as we were talking about earlier. I thought it might be of interest to everybody here if you could talk about Bill a little bit.
Yeah.
Bill Paxton, who just passed away, a great actor who just passed away a couple of months ago.
Something I didn't say to you actually was when I was working with Bill, I started in a film called, my first feature film was, I'd been in theatre, but I started in a film called Lords of Discipline, which sounds a bit like a porn movie, but it wasn't. It was a script actually by Pat Conway, it was originally a book. Anyway, to cut a long story short, Bill was the most fantastic man, and at that time, and we're talking about, I was like 20, and he was, I don't know how old, he's a little older than me. Anyway, we were walking to lunch, and he suddenly starts running. And of course, I'm walking with him, so I start running too, and I'm wondering what the hell we're running for. And he gets
running away from.
Well, he gets on a bus. I jump on the bus too, and he runs up to the top deck, and there's this beautiful girl sitting there called Elizabeth, I later find out. And he walks up to me, he says, "Hi, I'm Bill Paxton, and I'm doing this movie, and in this movie, I'm in a military academy, and I have to, and I'd love you to be my girlfriend in the movie when I get, and she's bright red, she goes bright red, and I'm there like, what are you doing? And, she's all giggly and everything, and he gives her his number, and everyone on the bus stops, and we get off the bus after, this time, and I said, Bill, what are you doing? And he goes, that woman is going to be the bearer of my children.
Really?
Yeah.
She was his wife. They have 2
my
kids.
God.
They've been married for 40 years. Since, you know, I mean, unfortunately, the reason the gentleman here brings up Bill Paxton is he made the greatest game ever played. He directed it.
Yeah.
And I rang him and I said, Bill, I haven't seen you in 40 years. Big. Jace, how are you? So good to see you. Remember on the bus? I'm like, haunted by that memory. And he said, let's get together. And so we get together, and I asked him about making a movie about golf, you know. And I said, what is it? What, you know, I actually really love that movie. I mean, I'm not sure about the ladybird on the ball and the perspective, but that's very Disney. I said, but I love it. And he said, you know, the reality of this is, be careful with the golf. You can't, you know, you have to keep it short and sharp and, you know, keep it relevant, and don't make the driving drama of the scene about the game, because, you know, you get stuck. And I have texts on my phone from him saying, oh, I'm so excited, your film's finished, I so want to see it. I'm in Ojai, you know, where he has a house. I just got a place. I'll, you know, when I was in LA, I'll come see a film. And literally 3 days before, suddenly he was dead. So sad story in a way, but such a wonderful man, and so giving and open to do that.
How big a part did Scotland have? It's a gorgeous canvas to this film. It couldn't have been told anywhere else. Like, how was Scotland involved, much larger than the canvas of this film,
Right.
in working with you on this picture?
Well, I've had an affinity with Scotland for a long time. I mean, I wasn't born there, I was born in England, but I was educated at Gordonston, which is in the far north of Scotland, and I started in Perth Rep as an actor up in Scotland, and I have this cottage there. And there's a light there that is quite extraordinary, and I have this sense, when I was talking about this today, when I drive over a hill to get to the valley that I live in, and when that happens, there's this sort of I have this sort of release of breath, and I look across the valley, and there's fields that are they almost look like tartan plaid, because there's, especially in the summer, there's the rape, which is yellow flower, and then there's green of the wheat, sometimes yellow, and it's striped with roads going through it, but also with the fields, and I have this sense of coming home. And you know, we did a making of film called Far and Shore, and it's on the website. It's half an hour long, and you know, Peter, who is from Glasgow, and has, you know, he talks about the fact that the film had to be made there. I mean, the extras were just sublime. I mean, they were so into the film, and so their faces were so real, and to dress them and to get them involved, and they were all, you know. But I didn't want to have sweeping shots of Scottish countryside or bagpipes. There's no bagpipes in the film.
I will humble smattering of applause for that.
But I wanted the beauty to be behind, so that it almost crept up on you. I wanted the film to be very intimate. This is about people. This is about being, and yes, you have the open spaces of the golf courses and stuff. But in essence, I wanted to be very accessible and feel as though you're in the story rather than standing back looking at it. So it's very easy when you look at these beautiful vistas to go, oh my God, I want this great shot, it's such a fantastic canvas. But actually I wanted it to appear behind, and for it to creep up on you, and hopefully it's that thing where you suddenly go, wow, that's really beautiful, without it actually being, here's a beauty shot for you all to admire. You know, the thing about a book is, and I was thinking about this the other day, everybody, if you ever read the book, you read it in your own voice. And that voice is very personal. The other day I read a book, and then someone started playing it to me on one of those audio books, and it sounded like it was the wrong voice, and so it sounded suddenly so impersonal. I was like, no, I loved that book, but I wanted it in my voice. And you know, I tried to make the film in my voice, and that might not speak to you fully, but hopefully it speaks to enough people that I'll be able to speak another story.
Tommy's Honor opens in Canada on May 5th. Please tell your friends all about it.